Alright, YouTube, so if you've been following the videos at all, you know I've been working on this massive audio subwoofer. The carbon fiber dust cap was a little bit of a pain to get off. And this was actually, I don't know if you remember in the previous video, when I looked up inside of the voice coil area here, this is actually a whole nother dust cap that sits in there like that, gets glued in, sealed up, and I'm assuming that the reason for this is because the carbon fiber dust cap probably isn't actually strong enough to stay in formation on the cone once you know pressure is being built inside the enclosure. Too much pressure will probably come in and either crack the carbon fiber dust cap or completely lift it off of the cone and tear the cone to shreds. Now I will say, if you take a look here, getting the dust cap off was not a super easy feat, and you could see inside there that some of the spots did lift up on the paper cone, but all that's going to get layered down with some glue. When I put this back into the basket and I shim it, and I know that everything is good and in place, I am then going to remove my shims, put a nice layer of glue on the inside of this with the dust cap on the inside, and then I'm going to put this dust cap back on the front with a nice layer of glue. This was not easy to get off though. Even after I removed the inner cap, I still had to work very carefully with this. It actually turns out that I ran out of alcohol, rubbing alcohol, and I couldn't use that to loosen up the glue. So I ended up using a hair dryer and nail polish remover actually to try to loosen up the glue. Also, I'm not really going to show the process because I believe that it's kind of redundant to over and over again talk about how to epoxy a voice coil that's trying to loosen. But if you look there on this coil, you're going to see that overall I have a nice even layer of epoxy. This time around I decided to do something different and use just some E6000 versus the usual two-part epoxy that I use. And the reason I tried to do something a little bit differently is because the two-part epoxy that I would typically use for this tends to smell a lot. It can get very smelly and starts to give me a headache and whatnot. So the next part of doing all this, I'm not going to worry too much about cleaning up all the glue in here on the spider landing and everything, because I feel like the old glue is actually going to give me a good adhering surface. E6000 will pretty much stick to anything. It is a very good glue. Yes, it's a craft glue. It's not like CA glue, which, by the way, CA glue actually stands for like contact adhesive, which means that it starts to immediately dry as soon as it makes contact with whatever it is that you're gluing. But CA glue can tend to get very brittle, especially when you start to use your hardener. It becomes very brittle if you dry it too fast, and ends up not being a very good, secure connection or bond. Oop, sitting on the amplifier. So check this out. Old school. Precision power. 500.2. It's got the old plug style terminals on it. Really good amplifier. Surprisingly, does really good power. That amplifier, I actually had it in my car hooked up to a JL Audio 12 W3, and it did really well on it. And I had the voice coil. The voice coil is wired at 2 ohms, and then I had it bridged onto this amplifier. Amplifier never got hot. It did very well. And then I thought, hey, let me try out another amplifier. And I did. And I got a Soundstream T1, what is it, a T1 4000, basically a Soundstream 4000 watt amplifier. So I got the 4000 watt amplifier and put it in my car, and to my surprise, I had to turn up my gain on my Soundstream amplifier quite a bit to even get close to the same output that I was getting on this 500 watt PPI. That 500 watt PPI obviously did its rated power and some, and that Soundstream is quite frankly a piece of garbage. But you know, that's what we do in the car audio hobby. So we keep trying different products, different equipment. We just keep testing and experimenting until we find something that we like and something that works for our needs. And sometimes we're only spending a few bucks, and at times we're spending thousands. But for somebody like me who just likes to listen to music, you know, I think I'm going to be switching back to the PPI amplifier. It just, to me, it did so much better than that Soundstream ever will. This, I'm gonna say that this is a very tight coil gap. Now, a lot of people use different things for shimming. People use business cards, people use oak tag, people use plastic. When I reconed an 18-inch sound cube, it had a plastic kit with it that had thick and thin plastic shims. Printer paper, Robot Underground, and I think even EXO. Done many recones with just printer paper, scrap paper. Works just fine. As you can see, 2 sheets each side was just a little too much. But 1 sheet seems to be my center. So now that I know 2 sheets is going to work, what I can do is lift this whole thing out, set it to the side. Now I'm going to take my E6000. By the way, the glue on the coil fully cured, which is why I'm doing this video now. Somebody in a previous video for my kickers complained, get on with it already. You know, let's see what we're here for. You know, I didn't know that people were anticipating me making an entire how-to series. I was simply just saying, hey, I have this problem with a subwoofer, and here's how to fix it. I didn't know somebody actually wanted to have me hold their hand and walk them through the entire process. Put that bead of glue on. I'm taking my finger, running it around the spider landing. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to see how much it's actually going to flatten, and if I'm going to have any dry spots, which I do. So, add a little bit more. And the thing is you don't want to glob too much glue on here, because when it comes time to seat your the spider down, you're going to want to make sure that everything is clear. E6000 is not one of those type of glues that dries super fast, so I'm not too worried about just checking my gap here one more time. Make sure everything was clear. Make sure my wires don't get into the glue. Get the paper in. I want to get one of those turntable setups that I've seen so many other people have and use. Now, the way that they had this before was they had the wires come through the holes, and then they bent them to the sides. I almost missed it. The reason I'm doing this right here and now, oh, yep, this is exactly why I did this. Because this needs to be somehow I got on the other side of the little mounting ring here. There we go. Now it's over. So when you're doing this, you want to make sure that your tinsel leads are actually going over your mount ring. If they're not, you go to clamp this mount ring down, you're probably going to cause some damage. Alright, so now that those are in place, I'm going to do a couple of pushes here. Now, technically speaking, what I could have done when I glued my spider, or when I glued the landing for my spider, I could have glued the top of the spider and the surround, plopped it all down, put my screws in, clamped it down, called it a day. I could have done all that. I like to work in stages, especially when it comes to something like this, because if I just try to rush through and do it all and get it all done real quick, that usually doesn't go so well for me. So what I do here at this part is I go a little thicker with the glue so that anything residual can kind of squeeze its way between the spider landing with the gasket. All these little cobweb thingies will go away once it's all dry. I used to use a lot of different type of two-part epoxies and fast drying agents and everything. I have a buddy of mine who does a lot of, he's a local guy, he does a lot of subwoofer customizing and modifications and whatnot. And I just got the screw. He's very good at what he does. He has his own channel. He doesn't post too much on there lately like he used to. But if you do decide to check him out, it's I think the name of the channel is Fire Under Calm Night. Anybody who's local might know him. His name is Bo. A lot of people call him Bo. I usually just call him Melvin. Simply because I think that's his actual real name. This is the interesting part, because you have to try to fish these screws in, because the cone is in your way, so you have to try to finagle a little bit around it. And again, this is one of the reasons why I've actually started using the E6000, is because it gives me more time to set everything up. because the other stuff I was using would have already pretty much been fully cured by now. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and stop the video here. You pretty much get the idea. When it's time for me to finish off on the top here, do my bead around the surround, and do the dust cap, I'll be back.